विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा, जय गुरुदेवा गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा। Hare Krishna. I have great pleasure to welcome all participants for we enter the final chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter. It is the longest chapter with 78 shlokas. So I am going to do it in 4 sessions. Today we are going to be taking 22 shlokas, 1 to 22. So before we commence, let us pray for the blessings of the Guru Parampara and Lord Sri Krishna by chanting the Mangalacharanam prayers. I request all of you to join with me. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha। Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Neelachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha। Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha। Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha। Panchatattvaatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam। Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna devotees, once again on behalf of ISKCON Chennai and on my personal behalf, I have great pleasure to welcome all of you for this session. Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogda Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsaha Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Mahat Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaide Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dhinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So this 18th chapter, what we are entering today, Srila Prabhupada says, this is a summary of the entire Bhagavad Gita. So anyone who is joining now should also be able to get the gist of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We are going to be doing it over the next 4 sessions, starting from today, 3 more sessions. So 1/4 of the chapter per session. And interestingly, Prabhupada says the second chapter is also a summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita. So, in the second chapter, Krishna will summarize whatever is going to come. And in the 18th chapter, Krishna will summarize whatever has been already discussed. But for a person who is seeing Bhagavad Gita for the first time, they won't be able to understand how it is like that. It seems second chapter contains totally different set of things, 18th chapter different things, and in between chapters some more different things. That is how we see it. But a pure acharya from the highest platform, he is able to visualize the messages what the Lord is giving. So the point that I am trying to make is to read Srimad Bhagavad Gita independently, simply by being a Sanskrit scholar or to learn from some other Sanskrit scholar, will not serve the purpose. Bhagavad Gita is meant for devotees, and we have to learn it from a pure devotee of the Lord. So in that sense, this Srimad Bhagavad Gita, what we have today, entitled Bhagavad Gita as it is, this is the gift of Srila Prabhupada to mankind for the next 10,000 years. Whoever will sincerely approach this book with great reverence, respect and faith, they will not go empty-handed. If they continue to keep Bhagavad Gita by their side for the rest of their life, they are assured of going back home, back to Godhead. Such is the power of the words of God, which is expressed through the lotus mouth of a spiritual master who is a pure devotee of the Lord. So let us, in all gratitude, let us approach this 18th chapter, which, as Prabhupada says, is a summary. So all of you who have been with me all along from chapter 1 should have no difficulty in grasping what is being talked about. So in the very first shloka, first 2 shlokas I will read now. Arjuna uvacha sanyasasya mahabaho tattvam ichchami veditum tyagasya cha hrishikesha vritakeshi nishudhana. This is the question from Arjuna. And second shloka onwards is the answer by Krishna. Shri Bhagavan uvacha kamyanam karmanam nyasam sanyasam kavayo viduhu sarva karma phalatyagam rahustyagam vichakshanaha. So Arjuna's question is, O Krishna, I would like to know the difference between the purpose of renunciation and the purpose of taking sannyasa ashram. We all know there is something called varnashrama system. You start as a brahmachari at the age of 5, you go to Gurukul and you learn the scriptures thoroughly until you are 24, 25 years old. By that time, you know everything about the nature of the material world, about God, about the soul, about karma, about reincarnation, about sin and piety. everything you have known, and the purpose why we have incarnated in this world, how to attain perfection in life, how to be a brahmachari, how to be a grihastha, how to be a vanaprastha, sannyasi. Everything is taught between the age of 5 to 24, along with some occupational activity, depending on the nature of the person. Somebody will become a Brahmana, the Brahmanical activities they will train. Somebody will be training as a Kshatriya or Vaishya or Shudra. In this way, by the time one comes out of Gurukul, a person knows how to maintain their life, and at the same time, they have got spiritual knowledge. Because as a human being, it is not our only aim to exist in this world and enjoy. That is not the goal at all. By now, we all know this world is a dukkhalaya. This is a place of suffering. We are not supposed to look for happiness here. So, if you have gone to Gurukul and spent your brahmacharya life there, when you come back and accept grihastha responsibilities, you will not expect that this is going to be a bed of roses I am going to enjoy. You will not enter grihastha with those expectations. So when you don't have such expectations, rather you are expecting that you have to discharge a whole lot of responsibilities with a view to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And in that process, you will get elevated to the spiritual platform. If you enter Grihastha life in that mood, there is no question of divorces and people drawing away from each other, having quarrels and tiffs day after day. Such things will not happen because both husband and wife will be busy discharging their responsibilities between themselves, with the children, with the parents, with the neighborhood, with the ancestors who have already passed away, discharging responsibilities to the devatas, to the rishis and munis, and all living entities. It keeps them busy. And they're happy discharging their responsibility, knowing fully well, if I do this well, then the Lord will take me back home, back to Godhead. And that is the only long term expectation they have. I don't know if some of you will remember the marshmallow experiment that I used to talk about in the beginning. So, marshmallow experiment is a test which will show who has the ability to be focused on a long term goal and who cannot focus on a long term goal. They want immediate pleasure. That is the marshmallow experiment. To repeat it in a few lines again, in case you have forgotten. This was a very simple test that was given to small children in the age of say 3, 4, 5 to 10 or 11, like that. The children were collected together in one place and they had heaped sweets on the table. Marshmallow means it's a jelly filled sweets, multicolored, spongy sweets. That is what it is. And they told the children, if you can wait for half an hour, one VIP is coming, that person has been delayed. So once he comes, you will get handful of these sweets. But if you cannot wait, then we are going to give you one sweet each. But you won't get the handful of sweets when the VIP come. Whoever does not take a sweet now will get a handful of sweets when the VIP comes. But if you cannot wait, you have to be satisfied with one sweet in your hand right now. When the VIP comes after half an hour, you won't get. So they wanted to see how many children are able to tolerate this urge to taste the sweet immediately and how they cope with the tension that I have to wait for half an hour, then I can get a handful of sweets. But very surprisingly and interestingly, almost 80% of the children took one sweet immediately. They did not choose to wait only. The remaining 20% of the children, they waited for half an hour and they tried to grit their teeth, close their eyes, look here and there, indulge in some different kinds of conversations, etc., to divert their mind from this temptation. And out of them, some of them fell down after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Those who remained till the end of the experiment were very few. So this happened long ago. 20 years later, another set of experimenters, they got this information that 80-90% of the children failed and 10% passed. They wanted to see what has happened to them now, 20 years later. You may wonder, but how you know where they are living? They might have moved away to different places. But interestingly, in the United States, people live in the same place. They are born and die in the same place. So this experiment was done by the Stanford University, very respected and very authentic university. So they went to each of these children's homes and they found out what has become of them. So they found a very interesting finding. The children who passed the test, they all had a highly successful life. The simple ability to wait for half an hour to collect a handful of sweets, that showed that in future these children will be successful when they went to their homes. And those who failed, they had average and below average lives. So you see, in the whole population, the percentage of people who can be really successful is very small. The bulk of the population will have very average life. This is what the Stanford experiment called marshmallow experiment predicts. You cannot expect everybody to be a very happy person, satisfied person, successful person, wealthy person, etc. Not possible. This very experiment shows about 80 plus percentage, they have only average lives. And they found that they had divorces, they had health problems, they had mental depressions, they had failures, they used to change jobs very frequently, they had a very, financially, they had too many difficulties. Some of them got into crime and some of them were in jail. Whereas those children who passed, they had university education, they had a good marriage, happy families, good health, so many things from a simple experiment, and they were stunned. I won't go into more detail because we are running short of time. So a simple materialistic experiment has a very high spiritual content if you have the eyes to see. The point is, if I can resist the temptation of my senses for instant gratification by accepting a long term goal, which may be 10 years, 20 years, 50 years hence, or maybe after death, if you can accept that there is a heaven and there is a God, if I live a good life, resisting unnecessary temptations, simply discharging my responsibilities, then I can go back to God. And eternally I can live in happiness. You just recollect how it connects with the marshmallow experiment. You have to have faith that there is a God and the God will reward my good behavior. So if I can resist my senses, then I can go back to God. In this whole lifetime, I should lead a pious life. I should not indulge in sense gratification. If you can do that, then you see, forget about what happens after death. In this very lifetime, you will be successful. You will be happy. You will be satisfied and content. You will have a longevity. You will have a healthy life. You will have a successful married life. You will have very good children. You will be well known in the society as a good person. All these things will come if you become a spiritual person. Simply by accepting there is God and God is watching me. And if I am a good person, God will reward me. If not in this life, in the next life. This faith, if we can give to people, now you can understand why India was such a glorious country in the past. Compared to the rest of the world, people accept that India had a very glorious past. Okay, then the Mughals came, then the British came, and a whole lot of things changed. But everybody accepts that, yes, before these invasions came, India was both in terms of GDP and in terms of spirituality and in terms of education, it stood head and shoulders above the rest of the world. How is it possible? Because of the Varnashrama system, which taught everybody that there is God. And you have to control your senses and execute your responsibilities in this lifetime. So there you come to the point of renunciation. Renunciation means you don't ask for the fruits of your actions. That is tyaga, renunciation. So Arjuna is asking the difference between renouncing in our life the various pleasures. What is the purpose of renouncing in our life? And also he is asking, what is the purpose of accepting sannyasa ashram? After being a grihastha or vanaprastha, why should one accept sannyasa? So this is the question that Arjuna is asking, and Krishna will give answers in a very beautiful way. So very clearly understand this. What is sannyas? Giving up fruitive activities is sannyas. Fruitive activity means activities that are performed with a view to experience the results, which are in the form of sense gratification, either in this lifetime or in the next lifetime or in the heaven, whatever. So, such activities which are performed with a view to enjoy the results, if you give up those activities, that's called sannyas. I hope it is clear. So, sannyas means giving up activities that will give you material happiness. You don't perform such activities at all. That is sannyas. That means you are accepting that I don't want material pleasures. So those activities I will perform which will give me material pleasures, such activities I am giving up. Then it is called sannyas. Then what is tyaga? Tyaga means not renouncing activities. It means giving up the results of all activities. That means you don't want to enjoy the fruits of your action, but you are not giving up action. In sannyasa, you give up all action which is performed with a view to enjoy the fruits. But in tyaga or renunciation, you don't give up activities, but you give up the attachment to the fruits. That means you don't perform the activities for the sake of experiencing sensory pleasures. Rather, you do the activities with a sense of beauty. Yes? So, this is the distinction Krishna is giving. Now, we will move on to other shlokas which will make things more and more clear. So, from third shloka onwards, Krishna explains what is the distinction between this tyaga and sannyasa. So, Krishna says, some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities must be given up as faulty. All kinds of fruitive activities must be given up as faulty. This is one set of people. Another set of people are saying, but acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should not be given up. That means yajna, dana, and tapasya. Such activities should never be given up. So there seems to be a contradiction between these two sets of people. One kind of person, they are telling all kinds of fruitive activity should not be done because they are faulty, because they give material results. But another set of people are saying acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be given up. So just wait how this will become reconciled. There seems to be a contradiction here. We will see how it is reconciled. Krishna declares in the fourth shloka that renunciation should be considered in terms of the modes of nature under which these actions are performed. So, if someone is renouncing, then we have to see under which mode of nature he is doing the renunciation. So, the point to consider is if we are under the influence of a particular mode of nature, even our renunciation will have the color of that particular mode. If I am a rajasic person, my renunciation will be in rajoguna. If I am a tamasic person, my renunciation will be in tamoguna. So this is the final conclusion by Krishna. That means an ordinary person is always under the modes of nature. So when he talks about renunciation, it is always under the modes. And we all know, except under the mode of goodness, whatever you do under the mode of passion and ignorance produces only misery and suffering. Even renunciation. Krishna will explain further. So again, Krishna says, acts of sacrifice, penance, and charity, yajna, tapasya, and dana, they should never be abandoned. Acts of sacrifice, penance, and charity should never be abandoned. But at the same time, tyaga means giving up the fruits of all our actions. Remember both these aspects. So, Krishna says, these acts must be always performed because they can purify even great souls. If you continue to do sacrifice, penance, and charity in your life, it will purify your soul. Why should I purify my soul? So that you don't have to take birth again. Rebirth is only because of contamination of the soul. So if the contamination is cleared, you become blissful, joyful, content, satisfied, qualified to go back home, back to Godhead. So you don't take rebirth in this material world. So Krishna is suggesting these activities can purify you. So even if you are a great person, don't give up these activities. Okay. Now let's go to 6. So now we come to the concept of prescribed duties. So prescribed duties, people have a lot of confusion to understand. You know why? It is because Varnashrama is gone. As long as Varnashrama was there, everybody knew what is prescribed duty. So one thing, Varnashrama is gone. Second thing, more important thing, Gurukul system is gone. If you had attended a Gurukul, then you would have known what is your prescribed duty. Because the Guru will identify your nature. He will classify you as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And accordingly, he will train you to learn your prescribed duties, to learn your occupation that will suit your mode, so that you can maintain yourself and you can also make progress. So today, everybody has a confusion about what is prescribed duty. Keep it aside. In the picture, what you see on the screen, it shows basically Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The 4 Chaturvarna system that has been created by Krishna. As long as the system was followed in the society was well organized and nobody had any confusion, any problem, and society worked like a well-oiled machine. It was working so beautifully. But anyway, we cannot go back to those days. So let us see how we can understand these matters. So prescribed duties must be performed without attachment or expectation of result as a matter of duty. What has been prescribed to me, those activities I must perform, but without attachment to that work or in expectation of any result. I should not do that activity thinking this will give me punya, this will give me good results in the future, not with the view to enjoy the fruits of that work. We should perform our work. So even though today we may not be able to know what is my prescribed duty, but if you can apply this formula to whatever work you are doing, that is, I should not become attached to the work, I should not have expectations of result, I must perform as a matter of duty. If I do that, then automatically your nature, whatever mode you are under, it will become cleansed. So this formula, even though we don't have Varnashrama system today, it can still be applied in our work. When I work, I should not have expectation of result. The result being sense gratification. I should not have such expectation. That is 6th shloka. 7th shloka again. Prescribed duties must never be renounced. So in the case of Arjuna, he is a Kshatriya, he has to follow dharma, and when a war has to be fought, he must fight on the side of dharma. Even though he has to fight with his own brothers, his own cousins, his own grandfathers, his own gurus, teachers, he should not step back. He should never renounce his prescribed duty. You know, in the beginning, Arjuna was telling, Krishna, permit me to take sannyas. I don't want to fight. So Krishna is telling, no. Renouncing one's prescribed duty is not proper renunciation. It is a renunciation under the modes of nature. We will come to that in future shlokas. So now Krishna will explain. He said prescribed duty must never be renounced. But people renounce under the modes of nature. So Krishna is teaching you to identify which kind of renunciation is out of which guna. So if one's gives up the duty due to illusion, what is illusion? Not knowing right and wrong, thinking wrong as right and right as wrong. So he gives up his prescribed duty in that confused mindset. That is renunciation in the mode of ignorance. He thinks this is not my duty. This is not my duty. And he thinks what is not duty as his duty. So he is doing something which is not his duty, and he is not doing something which is actually his duty. So he is under illusion, he is executing the duty of some other person. That is renunciation in the mode of ignorance. And in ignorance, what is the result? You downgrade yourself further and further and further, and you sink to hell or to hellish existence in this world. If you give up your duty under illusion. So this renunciation is useless and actually harmful. Now, what is renunciation under the mode of passion? That is, in this case, the person knows his duty. In the previous case, the person does not know his duty. Rather, he thinks his duty as not his duty. But in the case of Rajogun, the person knows his duty, but he thinks it is too troublesome, or there is too much of bodily discomfort. I will not do. I will do some other work. This work is troublesome. Like, for example, Arjuna may think, no, why should I fight with my brothers? It's not good. I will take sannyas. Or there are very stalwart opponents on the other side. I don't have a chance of winning. So let me not do this. I will go and become a king of some small place. Why will I fight with these people? So that kind of fearing bodily discomfort or as troublesome, or because I don't know whether the results will be in my favor, if you give up your duty, that is out of passion. So both these things, when you give up your prescribed duty out of ignorance or in passion, they lead only to misery. There is no elevation. So you see, renunciation of duty, in both the cases you will see, Shloka 7 and 8, Krishna is talking about giving up one's prescribed duty out of ignorance or out of passion. Only in those cases, people give up their duty. Now let us see what is renunciation in the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, you see, very interesting. This, if you understand, then most amount of clarity you will get. When one performs his prescribed duty, he is not giving up his duty, you see. He performs his prescribed duty only because it has to be done. It may be discomfort for him, there may be trouble in executing his duty, or he may not be sure about the results, but he doesn't care. Because it is my duty, it ought to be done, so he executes his duty. But at the same time, he renounces all material association and all attachment to the fruit of his action, of his duty. Such renunciation is a mode of goodness. So, again, I will say, renunciation in the mode of ignorance or in the mode of passion means renouncing the duty. You renounce the duty. But in the case of renunciation in the mode of goodness, you don't renounce your duty at all cost. You perform your duty, but you renounce the material association with the duty. You don't do it in a material consciousness. You do it in a higher consciousness. And you are not interested in the fruits of that duty. You do the duty sincerely, without laziness, with full concentration, but still you are not attached to the fruits. Even if the fruits are harmful, you don't care. You will still execute the duty. So now you know what is renunciation, or rather what is true renunciation. In true renunciation, you don't renounce your duties, but you renounce your attachment to the fruits of your duty. And you elevate yourself to a higher platform. You don't do it on the level of a material consciousness. So this is how it works. And Krishna says, if somebody thinks that he can give up work, it is foolish, because the soul can never be inactive. So the intelligent renouncer. So there is an intelligent renouncer and there is a foolish renouncer. The intelligent renouncer is situated in the mode of goodness. And what happens to him? He neither hates inauspicious work nor becomes attached to auspicious work. So in this case for Arjuna, it looks like inauspicious work, but because if he wins also, it will be on the death of his relatives, very close relatives, people whom he loved, people whom he respected, people whom he cared for. So that is apparently it is inauspicious work, But Arjuna should not hate it because it is his duty. Similarly, he should not become too much attached to work that appears to be auspicious. He does neither. As an intelligent renouncer, he renounces the fruit of his duty, but he performs his duty. He has no doubts about work, means no doubt about his duty. He realizes that I must perform my duty and I should perform with equipoise. I should not think in terms of auspicious, inauspicious work. This is the duty that is to be performed by me, and I am doing it for the pleasure of God. I am not doing it for my pleasure. So there is no question of is it auspicious or inauspicious. It is neither. It is neutral. The intelligent renouncer is on the neutral platform and he continues to execute his duty. So this is what we have to understand. And please remember, this is a summary of Bhagavad Gita we are going through. Of course, this is only the first 20 shlokas. We will be seeing the remaining 60 shlokas in the coming weeks. But this is a summary. So these points must be taken to heart in terms of what is duty, what is renunciation, what is sannyas. These things we must clearly understand. An embodied soul can never give up all activities. So if somebody says, I will not do my prescribed duty, then he will be doing some other activity. It is not that Arjuna, for example, he says, I don't want to fight Krishna, I want to go to the forest and do tapasya. So that is another activity, but it is not his prescribed duty. So he wants to give up prescribed duty and take up a duty which is not prescribed to him. It is prescribed for a Brahmana. And what will happen? He will actually incur sin. If he runs away from the battlefield, he will incur sin. But Arjuna is thinking, if I fight, I will incur sin. But Krishna is telling, no, if you fight, you will not incur sin, provided you fight without attachment. You don't see it as auspicious or inauspicious. You do it for my pleasure and you execute it as your prescribed duty as a Kshatriya. You have to fight with your relatives, you have to fight with your masters, but you do it as a duty without attachment to the results. You should not care whether I will win or lose, what will happen if I lose, etc. No. If he fights in that mood, no sin will attach to him. But instead of doing that, if he runs away from the battlefield saying, I don't want to do violence, I am a peace-loving person, if I do violence, I will get sin, so I will not fight. If he goes like that, then he will incur sin. So this is the way the law of God works. So here, Krishna says, it is impossible for a soul who is trapped in a body to give up all activities. But if he executes his duty but renounces the fruits, then he is truly renounced. So because we are in a body and we have some duties, by executing those duties without attachment to the fruits, we become truly renounced. So on the face of it, the person seems to be actively working. The person seems to be very much attached to the fruits. The person seems to be full of passion in the war, fighting with great anger, etc. on the face of it. But if you go inside his heart, you will see he is totally detached. He is completely neutral. He is only executing his duty to God. Simply executing duty. He is not at all attached to the fruits of his action. Please try to understand what lofty heights Bhagavad Gita is showing to us. These are the heights that we should aspire for in this life. We are, after all, spirit souls. We are not the material bodies. And we are presently in a material body because of our past actions. But now that we have got a human body, and now we have got the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, now is the time to elevate the quality of our behavior, quality of our action, quality of our consciousness. That way we make progress. So then Krishna says, if a person is working in that spirit of renunciation, then no fruits of action will accrue to him after death. So what are these threefold fruits of action? One is desirable, that is piety, he will go to heaven. Or undesirable, sin, he will go to hell. or he gets a mixture of desirable and undesirable results. So Krishna says, for one who is not renounced, all these things will accrue after death. If you work in a spirit of attachment to the fruits of action, then these fruits will accrue to you. Either you will get sin, or you will get piety and go to heaven, or you will get mixed results, so you will both suffer and enjoy in this material world. This will happen after death. But if you are really renounced and you have performed your duty without attachment, then you have no such results and you are a true sannyasi. So now you have to understand who is a true sannyasi. A true sannyasi is not one who renounces work, but he renounces the fruits of work and he very much executes his prescribed duties with full attention and concentration. So now Krishna is going to explain a few things. Usually the performer of work thinks I am the doer, right? If I am doing some work, I think I am the doer. So when the results of the work come, I think I am the cause of this result. So we have the thinking that I am the doer and I am the enjoyer or sufferer. This is our consciousness. We think I am wholly and solely the doer and enjoyer of my actions. But here Krishna is pointing out that according to Vedanta, there are 5 causes in the accomplishment of all actions. 5 causes. Let us see what these 5 causes are. One is the place of action, which is the body. If you have been following Bhagavad Gita properly all these years and weeks, you will know body is not actually ours. Body is not really ours. Body belongs to material nature. And you know, material nature is constantly creating and destroying bodies. Constantly it is creating and destroying. Right now also my body is losing some cells. My body is replacing some cells. Body is excreting. Body is accreting. This is going on all the time. So the body is constantly changing, but the soul is unchanging. So the body is the field of action. You remember? Kshetra. And the soul is the Kshetrajna. So the 5 elements, 5 causes are: one is the body itself, 2, the performer, which is the soul, Kshetrajna. 2. Number 3, our various senses are involved. And all these senses are influenced by the modes of nature. And they are controlled by the devatas. Every sense, there is a demigod in charge of the senses. And then different kinds of endeavor. We do different kinds of activity using our working senses. So on the one side, we have the knowledge gathering senses. On the other side, we have working senses. With that, we perform different kinds of work or endeavor. These are the 4 causes. And which is the 5th cause? Ultimately, the super soul. Everything is happening by the presence of the super soul within us. The soul is actually a passive observer, but the soul unfortunately thinks he is the doer and he is the enjoyer. But actually, it is a super soul which is reminding the soul, you see, in your last birth you desired like this, and this is the time to experience that desire. Like that, super soul is driving you from within, and also super soul is controlling the fruits, whether your activity will be successful or it will be failure, whether you will get happiness or you will get misery, whether you will get victory or loss. It is decided by the super soul. So there are 5 factors of action, but the foolish man thinks he is the only cause of action and he becomes the enjoyer or sufferer of the results. In the process, he becomes entangled. See in this picture, for example, if I kill an animal for eating in this lifetime, in my future lifetime, the animal that I killed will become the killer and I will become the animal to be killed by him. That's called mam saha. In Sanskrit, mam saha means, mam means I, saha means you. We just change positions. Today I am man and you are animal. Next birth you will be man, a butcher, and I will be the butchered animal. So that's the meaning of mam saha. You see, Sanskrit is such a wonderful language. Divine language. Even a word gives the meaning. There are so many words like that in Sanskrit. So these are the 5 factors of action. All right and wrong actions performed by man using body, mind, and speech, it is caused by these 5 factors. The performer should not think, I am the only cause of this. No, there are 4 more factors involved, and most importantly, super soul is the ultimate arbitrator of all our actions. So, whether you are doing right action or wrong action, there is always these 5 factors working behind the scene. And activity is performed either by body, mind, or by words. All these things are caused by these 5 factors. And then Krishna says, ignoring all these 5 factors, if somebody thinks I am the only doer, such a person is not very intelligent and he is not seeing things as they are. His vision is polluted. His vision is not clear. So, if my vision is not clear, what is the value of my actions? So, this is where Krishna is reminding Arjun that please remember, super soul is the most important factor out of all 5. And you are one of the insignificant factors in this 5 factor formula. Yes. And then Krishna says, one who is not motivated by false ego. That means you should not think I am the doer. So, one who is not motivated by false ego, whose intelligence is not entangled. What is that? Intelligence is not entangled means you don't think that I am this body or I am the enjoyer or the sufferer. You don't have that consciousness. Your intelligence is clear that I am a servant of the Lord. I am an eternal spirit soul and I am here to perform my duties. So that way, your false ego is out of the way, your intelligence is not entangled by the modes, then even though you kill people, you don't really kill. Even though you kill, like Arjuna is fighting, he's killing the enemy soldiers. But Krishna says, you don't really kill. Arjuna was afraid of committing sin. But Krishna is telling, no, Arjuna, even if you kill, you don't kill, provided you have internalized the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. You are not fighting to enjoy the fruits of this war. You don't care whether you win or lose. You are not meditating in your mind, am I going to win or lose? But please remember, audience, please remember, it is not that, if I am not interested in the results, so why should I fight actively? People may get the doubt. He has no interest in the fruits, then is he going to fight with his whole heart? But if you understand, duty is performed for the pleasure of Krishna, and the pleasure of Krishna is the only goal for every living entity, then you will know how much energy will be there in his fighting. He is not fighting for himself, but he is fighting for the super soul. So that way, he will be fighting with full energy and spirit, but he does not kill. Similarly, he will not incur karma. He is not bound by his actions. The karma will not bind him. So, what a beautiful situation. You are working, but you are not bound by the results. In another situation, you are avoiding work, but you are bound by sin. So, both these contexts we should understand. What is karma, what is vikarma, what is akarma. Yes, we know that karma is prescribed duty, vikarma is duty which is not to be done, wrong activity, and akarma means Krishna conscious activity, where you don't incur any fruits. The fruits will not bind you, the actions will not bind you. That is actually called akarma. But if you think akarma means, oh, I don't have to do any work and I'll be free from sin, that is wrong. That is wrong. So let us have a clear understanding of what is akarma. If you straight away translate akarma, you will think no work, not working. But it's not the correct understanding. Akarma means you don't work for results. You work for the pleasure of Krishna. You work as a prescribed duty without attachment to the fruits. Then only it becomes akarma. So when does the spiritual knowledge complete? So Krishna is going into greater details. The broader picture we have already got. Krishna is now explaining with greater and greater details. So Krishna says, behind every work, there are two important aspects. One, there is a motive for the action. And second is action itself. So both he will discuss in detail. So first is, why do I work? That is motive for the action. And secondly, how do I work? The action itself. In each of these, there are three factors. What motivates action? There is a knowledge. I have a knowledge that here is a war and it has to be fought. And what is the purpose of that knowledge? That is object of that knowledge. In the case of a entangled person, he wants to enjoy the results of the war. But in the case of a spiritual person, he is doing it as a prescribed duty. So there is a difference in the object of knowledge. And knower is the soul, is the person who is performing the activity. So again, action first happens in the mind. Then only it is executed externally. So Krishna is first talking about the action which happens in the mind. Then he will talk about how it is actually executed externally. So in the mind, there is a knowledge and there is a purpose for that knowledge. What is the result I am expecting from that knowledge? And the person who is contemplating these things. So there is a person contemplating action and there is a certain knowledge available to him and he has a particular goal which he wants to achieve with this knowledge. These are the motive factors for action. Next is action itself, how it is performed. There is a doer. So in the previous case, knower. In the second case, doer. They are the same people. Knower and doer, same person. And he is using his senses, his working senses, his intelligence gathering senses, and the work itself. This is the three constituents of action. Why Krishna is breaking it up is the three gunas operate on each of these things. On the knowledge, the object of knowledge, the knower, the senses, the work, doer, each of them becomes influenced by the modes of nature. That is why Krishna is going to give in greater detail how the modes affect each of these things. Okay, that will come in the following shlokas. So depending on the mode of nature under which we are operating, there are three kinds of knowledge, three kinds of action, and three kinds of performer of action. And Krishna is going to explain how this happens. So basically, please remember, we were introduced to the three modes of nature by Krishna in an earlier chapter, right? In the 14th chapter. Now, Krishna is explaining in the subsequent chapters how the modes are constantly influencing us. We think we are free. We think from 1947 we have become an independent nation and we have a democracy and we are a republic. Each citizen is the master of his life and we are totally independent. We are the people who make the law. Our representatives, they make law what we want. So we think we are completely independent. But Krishna is telling, sorry, my dear friend, you are controlled by three modes of nature. Always. Until you become free from the control of these modes of nature, don't consider yourself free. You are a slave of your mind. You are a slave of your senses, which are all influenced by the modes. So you are not really free. That is what Krishna is explaining now. So except you do renunciation in a spirit of bhakti, you don't become free from the modes of nature. So this is where Krishna is driving you. He is making you understand. He is showing from every angle that you are not free. Even though you are assuming that you are free, in ignorance. Krishna is again and again teaching that. It is actually ignorance to think you are free, as long as you are controlled by the modes of nature. But how to become free? Krishna will teach that. So this is the summary of whatever you have read in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is again building towards the crescendo. As you go through this, Krishna will ultimately come to the final prescription. But what we are seeing, he should enlighten us. It should open our eyes to the fact that we are all prisoners of our senses, prisoners of the three modes of material nature. Our mind, our intelligence, our senses, they are all captured by the modes and we are not really free. When do we become free? when we renounce in a mood of bhakti to the Supreme Lord, then we become free. My surrender to the Supreme Lord will actually make me free. We will come to these things in future sessions. So here Krishna is explaining so how the knowledge is influenced by the modes. Knowledge, how it is influenced. If you have the knowledge that the entire material creation is basically one undivided spirit. Yes, we know Virat Rupa of the Lord, that is the Brahman, that is the underlying spiritual nature of all that exists. Within every person, there is a supreme soul, super soul, which is the same super soul in the heart of everyone. So that way, you have to see the undivided spiritual nature in all living entities, even though the body is appearing in different forms. Then your knowledge is in the mode of goodness. So if you are able to see the Supreme Lord present in everyone, then you are in the mode of goodness. Whereas if you think in each body there is a different soul, and the soul is born with the body, when the body dies, the soul also dies. So with that assumption, you make so many mental concoctions and you produce so many theories, not based on scriptures, but your own mental concoction, then you are in the mode of passion. So that knowledge by which one sees in every body there's a different type of living entity. And when the body goes, the soul goes with it. And all your philosophies are based on this wrong assumption because you are not accepting the scripture. Then you are in the mode of passion. And in the mode of ignorance, simply you want sense gratification. That's all. So whatever work you are doing for sense gratification, beyond that you don't know anything. This work I am doing, it is going to produce some outcome. It is going to create some sin for me, and because of the sin, I will have to suffer in future times, and I have to carry these vasanas with me in future lifetimes, and I will be degraded. All these things they don't know. That means their knowledge is very meager. Why it is meager? Because they are not turning towards scriptures. They are not reaching out for any guidance, and they are so much absorbed in sense gratification. In the case of passion, a person at least understands the connection between effort and fruit. So he is willing to put in some effort to enjoy the fruit. But in the case of tamogun, in the mode of ignorance, he is only absorbed in experiencing instant pleasure, quick results. You can see how Kali Yuga is degrading. You can see everywhere people are absorbed in instant gratification. If you think, meditate, introspect for 5 minutes, you will know. The roads are filled with restaurants, hotels, shopping malls, and for this, everybody is carrying plastic cards to enjoy today and to pay tomorrow. And then they transfer balance from one card to another card and they keep on jumbling like this, increasing the misery on the one side, but they continue to try to enjoy. On the one side, they are piling up misery, future misery, but on the one side, they are trying to enjoy with great fever. This is ignorance. So this modern age encourages ignorance because it is Kali. Kali progresses by pushing people more and more into Tamagun. So you can understand suffering of the society is going to only increase in the days to come. Because the path you are traveling, by that you can predict where the destination will be. So Tamogun is the most dominant force in the world today, with some Rajogun. Sattvagun has become invisible because Gurukul and Varnashrama have been destroyed. But still, by taking this book and sincerely trying to understand under guidance and practicing even little by little in your life, you can become free. Whatever is happening to the rest of the world, it will not touch you. Your life will become free and you will travel towards higher realms of existence, towards God. So that is the assurance of Bhagavad Gita. Neha Bhikrama Nashosti Pratyavayo Navidyate Swalpamapyasya Dharmasya Trayito Mahato Bhaya. From the greatest fear you will be protected, provided you accept the teaching of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So with this we come to the end of this session. Let us chant the Mahamantra 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. I can take your questions now if you have any doubts. Yes, Indrani Mataji, you can ask your question. Oh, have I? Acha, acha, I think I have to do something here. Excuse me, just one moment. Yes, please. Yeah, you can now unmute yourself.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Absolutely sublime knowledge. I mean, unbelievable to say the least. Prabhuji, my question is that we have our Prabhupada, he has given us this access to this knowledge by letting everybody come into this association, Prabhuji. I mean, women, Shudras, and everybody, whoever is considered a little low in terms of intelligence. But when we look at the history, Prabhuji, when we look at Gurukul and all, that time, especially in Bengal, as I know of, there was not much of an access of this knowledge to the common people, in the sense that most of the time it was only the Brahmanas or the higher light or whatever, they were brought into this kind of education level. Why is it that, Prabhuji? Is there any
Yeah, yeah.
specific reason?
It's a very good question. So let me tell you something. I was wrong in something I said in the class. I said Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, everybody went to Gurukul. I was wrong. Only Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya were allowed entry into Gurukul. Shudras were not allowed entry into Gurukul. The reason is very simple. Brahmana means Sattvagun. Kshatriya means Rajogun. Vaishya means combination of Rajogun and Tamogun. But Shudra means pure Tamogun. So, Krishna, out of his compassion, he had organized a society into these four categories. Brahmana becomes the head of the society, and Kshatriya becomes the arms of the society. Vaishya becomes the stomach of the society to provide food and nourishment, and Shudra becomes the leg of the society to do the work for the society. But remember, both the head and legs are part of the same organism. They are not separate. The stomach is going to nourish the whole body. Similarly, the arms are going to protect the whole body, and the head is going to guide the whole body. Nobody is exempted from this. But at the same time, head is designed for a certain kind of work which only the head can do. The arms cannot do. But when the arms work under the guidance of the head, the arms are going to do productive work. But if the arms are going to work independently, that is harmful. Same with the stomach and same with the legs. So, as far as the spiritual evolution is concerned, the whole society evolves as one organism. The Brahmana is getting into higher and higher levels of sattva. The Kshatriya is moving from Rajogun to more and more of Sattvagun. And Vaishya is moving towards more and more Rajogun and Sattvagun. And the Shudra is moving from Tamogun towards Rajogun. It will happen to them gradually. This is a Varnashrama system, which is a scientific system of God. Because by our past existence, the kind of karmas and vasanas that we have accumulated, we are under the influence of particular gunas. A person who is most covered by ignorance is in tamogun. To that person, you cannot teach any kind of spiritual knowledge. The person will have no interest at all. Rather, he will misunderstand, misuse, and put himself into more trouble. So that is why, mercifully, Shudra did not have to go to Gurukul. But even without going to Gurukul, he will get the benefits because he has to work under Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya guidance. If he is allowed to work independently, like in modern day, we call it democracy. Everybody is free to drink, to smoke, to get into the wrong habits. Freedom. We want to reduce the punishments for various activities. What was illegal before, people are not able to follow. Make it legal. Abortions were illegal once upon a time. They have become legal because no, people are clamoring. We want abortions. We want to enjoy unbridled sense gratification. Divorces were not law once upon a time, but because democracy, the people want, oh no, I am dissatisfied with my spouse. I want to go free. I want to have a new experiment in my life. I am going to find happiness. Please change the law. Divorce should become free. Earlier they said 5 years, I don't know, law so much. Maybe initially they said at least 5 years you have to wait, then only we can consider divorce. Then made it 3 years, then made it 2 years, then made it 1 year, then no, it's all right. It is individual choice. Or a minor getting into relationships before marriage, is it allowed or not? All kinds of things, man-made laws. So all these man-made laws are against God's laws. So this is the problem with the modern system. But in Varnashrama system, everything is perfect because the head is in the right place and the legs are in the right place. If you
Prabhuji, what about women, Prabhuji? Women?
It's the same thing. As long as you are following Varnashrama duties, you are protected. The husband is there. So the woman is under the protection of the father initially, then husband subsequently. Then if the husband becomes a sannyasi or husband dies, she is under the protection of her grown-up son. So woman is
Prabhuji, won't they be more devotional or more devoted if they learn this book? They don't have an access to this book, Prabhuji. I know my grandparents, I know their mothers and everybody. They didn't understand Gita, Prabhuji. Although they had the book, probably they had Gita lessons, as they say, they used to get it at home. But the knowledge, real knowledge, they did not know anything about Gita, Prabhuji. They worshipped Krishna. They did all the rituals, everything. But as far as the knowledge, the understanding is concerned, it was totally nil. So, Prabhuji, the women, they hold that they nurture the kids, Prabhuji. So, I understand it must be the right thing.
Mataji, you are viewing something in isolation. When you see something in isolation, you miss the broader picture. So, we are talking about a fabric of society. As I have explained in a previous class, a fabric consists of warp and weft. And actually, they are finally individual threads only. A fabric is made of threads only. But if the threads are by themselves, they are not safe, they are not protected. But when they become part of a tightly knit fabric, you see, if you have seen a handloom, the fellow will push the runner this side and then put like this to make it tight. The fabric has to be tight. When it is tightly knit, it is strong, it stays strong. So, individually, we may be weak, but when we become part of a strongly knit fabric, the fabric is strong and individual thread is also strongly protected. So that way, you don't have to individually approach in isolation what will happen to women, what will happen to Shudras, what will happen to old people. They are all part of the one strongly knit society. Please understand, a Brahmana with that knowledge is able to protect the whole society. But the same knowledge, if we give to a less qualified person, they will do more harm. But because they are all constituted as parts of one organism, is it not? My head and legs belong to me. It's not that I neglect my leg, I pay special attention to my head. No. Only thing is, I should keep my head in the right place, I should keep my legs in the right place. But modern society is changing the position of legs and the head. That is where the problem is coming. And Mataji, whatever you have seen is in the matter of last 1 century or so. We have not seen really a Varnashrama society. We can only imagine or we can see from the scripture and understand how a Varnashrama was working. So there were powerful kings, but they were not independent. They were all guided by Brahmanas. So the Brahmana must have been more powerful, but no, the Brahmana was living in the forest. He will not even come into the village. He is out of society. He is living in the forest. He is completely content applying mind on God. So why is he guiding the Kshatriya? Out of compassion for the society. So you see, the most powerful organ of the society is not trying to exploit that power. That organ is actually interested to serve selflessly the rest of the organism. So if you have a head like that, how happy the legs should be. So that is how we should understand. So today the focus is on the individual. If an individual is wronged, we all become upset. But the whole society is paying the price for that. If the society is suffering, do you think the individual can be happy? So this is the way our minds influenced by Tamogun is working. That's all, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Dhanyavad pranam.
Yes, Padmini Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I have not been attending your classes regularly, but I'm following your videos regularly, Prabhuji. You might have told about this earlier, but please, for my clarification, I'm asking once again. Prabhuji, you told the thing. My doubt is, how can one know what duty allotted to him in this Kali age? Earlier, it was easy for them to know what's their duty. Like a Kshatriya will sing, Vaishya will be trading and all that. But now in this Kali age, because everything is mixed up, how do we know what is our duty and how can we perform it?
It's a very valid question, Mataji. Unfortunately, because the society is topsy-turvy, it is very difficult to identify. But fortunately for us, Krishna is giving us some clue about how to proceed. So what Krishna is telling, don't be attached to the fruits of your action. Now you can see most of our action is motivated by the fruits only. Whatever action I am doing, it is by fruits. Let's say I am looking for a job, okay? I am looking where is the biggest package, where I have the maximum power and influence over people, where I will get the maximum name and fame, or where I have to work the least, whatever may be the criteria. But these are the criteria by which I am choosing my job. That means I am constantly meditating on the fruits. But right now we have understood that we should not be focusing on the fruits. So when you are not focusing on the fruits, then automatically your inherent nature has an opportunity to come out. So that way you can identify what is my nature. Am I Brahminical? Am I Kshatriya or Vaishya Shudra? So to that extent, your inner conscience can guide you. But beyond that, now that we have a scripture, Bhagavad Gita, the ultimate scripture to guide our life, if you can also accept a spiritual master, under whose guidance you will run your spiritual life, then you will get greater and greater clarity about how to proceed with this. So until that time, we are not very clear about whether I am sattvic or rajasic or tamasic. We can continue to grow our sattvic qualities. We have already seen what kind of food is conducive for sattva gun, what kind of worship is conducive to sattva gun, what kind of charity is conducive to sattva gun. We have known all this. So more and more and more, we should try to operate on the sattva platform. That is number one. Number two, we should try to give up our attachment to the fruits of our action. Number two. Number three, we should do all these things in a spirit of Krishna consciousness. So, in this age of Kali, we don't have a Gurukul to guide us to our path, which was, you can imagine how wonderful life should have been once upon a time when the Varnashrama system was operating. It should have been extraordinary. But that's why we have the ages called Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, etc. No, where life was almost as good as heaven. But now we are in Kali Yuga, we cannot expect that, demand that. We are in Kali Yuga only because we are so much fallen. Otherwise, why we will take birth in Kali Yuga? So let us accept this situation. But let us accept the guidance of what Bhagavad Gita, in the words of Srila Prabhupada, is telling us. And let us try to implement that in our life. Then automatically, from whichever platform you are, whether you are in Tamogun or Rajogun, you are going to the transcendental platform. By the mercy of Krishna, you don't have to gradually go from Tamogun to Rajogun to Sattvagun and then transcend it. That was the Varnashrama system. Varnashrama system was a process of gradual evolution of the individual soul. But here in Krishna consciousness, you are given a direct access from Tamogun to Suddha Sattva. So why should we complain? Actually, we are more fortunate in that sense compared to the people of the other ages, where they had to have a gradual evolution through Varnashrama. But we have the path of devotion, which can take you directly up. So don't become too obsessed with the Varnashrama, etc. Let us understand, I have to do my work as an offering to the Lord. Yat karoshi yadasnasi yajjuhoshi dadasyat yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madarpanam. Krishna has given you the perfect solution. Do everything as an offering to Krishna, then the work becomes purified. Whatever contamination may be there, it gets purified. Yes,
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you told about the spiritual master. Now, whom should I consider as spiritual master? Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada,
yes.
or whoever is the guru who is going to give us the Diksha? I mean, if we progress in this line,
Very good.
who will be the spiritual guru?
Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. He is the primary Siksha Guru for all of us. And our parampara is a Siksha parampara. Okay. Our parampara is not based on Diksha. He gave Diksha to XYZ, that person gave Diksha to XYZ. That is not the way our parampara is. Our parampara is from who you took Siksha. So that way, all of us have Srila Prabhupada as our Siksha Guru, who is a pure devotee, Senapati Bhakta of the Supreme Lord. So, but Prabhupada is no longer in front of us. What is the problem? He has left all his books, and Prabhupada says, whoever is reading my book sincerely, I am talking to that person. Siksha Guru is giving Siksha through the books. So if you are reading Prabhupada's books, then the Diksha Guru will automatically come into your life. Because taking a Diksha Guru is the Krishna's method of connecting to a parampara system. Diksha Guru can also be your Siksha Guru, but your predominant Siksha Guru will be Prabhupada eternally. We have taken Prabhupada eternally. So in that sense, we are all so fortunate that Prabhupada is there, the greatest person is there in our life. So everything else is secondary. So Prabhupada as our primary guru and taking a spiritual master as a necessity to be connected to the parampara, and that spiritual master is also in the parampara of Srila Prabhupada. So he will not speak anything which is contrary to what Prabhupada has already spoken. So there is Prabhupada, the living guru in the form of his books, and then you have a Diksha Guru who is actually in front of you to give you guidance where it is needed. But in ISKCON, again, we are so fortunate. There are so many gurus. Even if your Diksha Guru is not in your proximity or not very accessible because he's abroad, but any other guru is good enough for you. All the gurus are speaking only the message of Srila Prabhupada. So that way, we should not have any confusion or any problems with this.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank